Ethiopian Enoch, Chapter 71. The Book of the Revolutions of the Luminaries of Heaven, according to their respective classes, their respective powers, their respective periods, their respective names, the places where they commenced their progress, and their respective months, which Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, explained to me. He who conducted them, the whole account of them, according to every year of the world forever, until a new work shall be effected, which will be eternal. This is the first law of the luminaries. The sun and the light arrive at the gates of heaven, which are on the east, and on the west of it, at the western gates of heaven. I beheld the gates whence the sun goes forth, and the gates where the sun sets, in which gates also the moon rises and sets. And I beheld the conductors of the stars, among those who precede them. 6 gates were at the rising, and 6 at the setting of the sun. All these respectively, one after another, are on a level, and numerous windows are on the right and on the left sides of those gates. First proceeds forth that great luminary, which is called the sun, the orb of which is as the orb of heaven, the whole of it being replete with splendid and flaming fire. Its chariot, where it ascends, the wind blows. The sun sets in heaven, and returning by the north to proceed towards the east, is conducted so as to enter by that gate, and illuminate the face of heaven. In the same manner it goes forth in the first month, by the great gate. It goes forth through the fourth of those 6 gates, which are at the rising of the sun. And in the 4th gate, through which the sun with the moon proceeds, in the first part of it there are 12 open windows, from which issues out a flame when they are opened in their proper periods. When the sun rises in heaven, it goes forth through this 4th gate 30 days, and by the 4th gate in the west of heaven, on a level with it descends. During that period the day is lengthened from the day, and the night curtailed from the night for 30 days. And then the day is longer by 2 parts than the night. The day is precisely 10 parts, and the night is 8. The sun goes forth through this 4th gate, and sets in it, and turns to the 5th gate during 30 days. After which it proceeds from and sets in the 5th gate. Then the day becomes lengthened by a 2nd portion, so that it is 11 parts, while the night becomes shortened and is only 7 parts. The sun now returns to the east, entering into the 6th gate, and rising and setting in the 6th gate 31 days, on account of its signs. At that period, the day is longer than the night, being twice as long as the night, and becomes 12 parts. But the night is shortened, and becomes 6 parts. Then the sun rises up, that the day may be shortened, and the night lengthened. And the sun returns toward the east, entering into the 6th gate, where it rises and sets for 30 days. When that period is completed, the day becomes shortened precisely 1 part, so that it is 11 parts, while the night is 7 parts. Then the sun goes from the west, from that 6th gate, and proceeds eastwards, rising in the 5th gate for 30 days, and setting again westwards in the 5th gate of the west. At that period the day becomes shortened 2 parts, and is 10 parts, while the night is 8 parts. Then the sun goes from the 5th gate, as it sets in the 5th gate of the west, and rises in the 4th gate for 31 days, on account of its signs, setting in the west. At that period the day is made equal with the night, and being equal with it, the night becomes 9 parts, and the day 9 parts. Then the sun goes from that gate, as it sets in the west, and returning to the east, proceeds by the 3rd gate for 30 days, setting in the west at the 3rd gate. At that period the night is lengthened from the day during 30 mornings, and the day is curtailed from the day during 30 days, the night being 10 parts precisely, and the day 8 parts. The sun now goes from the 3rd gate, as it sets in the 3rd gate in the west, but returning to the east, it proceeds by the 2nd gate of the east for 30 days. In like manner also, it sets in the 2nd gate in the west of heaven. At that period the night is 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. Then the sun goes at that time from the 2nd gate, as it sets in the 2nd gate in the west, but returns to the east preceding by the 1st gate for 31 days, and it sets in the west in the 1st gate. At that period that night is lengthened as much again as the day. It is 12 parts precisely, while the day is 6 parts. The sun has thus completed its beginnings, and a second time goes round from these beginnings. Into that 1st gate it enters for 30 days, and sets in the west, in the opposite part of heaven. At that period the night is contracted in its length a 4th part, that is, 1 portion, and becomes 11 parts. The day is 7 parts. Then the sun returns and enters into the 2nd gate of the east. It returns by these beginnings 30 days, rising and setting. At that period the night is contracted in its length. It becomes 10 parts, and the day 8 parts. Then the sun goes from that 2nd gate and sets in the west, but returns to the east and rises in the east in the 3rd gate 31 days, setting in the west of heaven. At that period the night becomes shortened. It is 9 parts, and the night is equal with the day. The year is precisely 364 days. The lengthening of the day and night, and the contraction of the day and night, are made to differ from each other by the progress of the sun. By means of this progress, the day is daily lengthened, and the night greatly shortened. This is the law and progress of the sun, and its turning when it turns back, turning during 60 days, and going forth. This is the great everlasting luminary, that which he names the sun forever and ever. This also is that which goes forth a great luminary, and which is named after its peculiar kind, as God commanded. And thus it goes, in and out, neither slackening nor resting, but running on in its chariot, by day and by night. Its light is 7 times brighter than that of the moon, but the dimensions of both are equal. Enoch Chapter 72. After this law, I beheld another law of an inferior luminary, the name of which is the moon, and the orb of which is as the orb of heaven. Its chariot, which it secretly ascends, the wind blows, and light is given to it by measure. Every month at its exit and entrance, it becomes changed, and its periods are as the periods of the sun. And when in like manner its light is to exist, its light is a seventh portion from the light of the sun. Thus it rises, and at its commencement towards the east, goes forth for 30 days. At that time it appears, and becomes to you the beginning of the month. 30 days it is with the sun in the gate from which the sun goes forth. Half of it is in extent, 7 portions, 1/2. And the whole of the orb is void of light, except a 7th portion out of the 14 portions of its light. And in a day it receives a 7th portion, or half that portion of its light. Its light is by sevens, by 1 portion, and by the half of a portion. It sets with the sun. And when the sun rises, the moon rises with it, receiving half a portion of light. On that night, when it commences its period, previously to the day of the month, the moon sets with the sun. And on that night it is dark in its 14 portions, that is, in each half. But it rises on that day with 1/7 portion precisely, and in its progress declines from the rising of the sun. During the remainder of its period, its light increases to 14 portions. Enoch chapter 73. Then I saw another progress and regulation which he effected in the law of the moon. The progress of the moons, and everything relating to them, Uriel showed me, the holy angel who conducted them all. Their stations I wrote down as he showed them to me. I wrote down their months as they occur, and the appearance of their light, until it is completed in 15 days. In each of its 2 7 portions, it completes all its light at rising and at setting. On stated months, it changes its settings, and on stated months, it makes its progress through each gate. In 2 gates, the moon sets with the sun. In those 2 gates which are in the midst, in the 3rd and 4th gate. From the 3rd gate, it goes forth for 7 days and makes its circuit. Again it returns to the gate whence the sun goes forth, and in that completes the whole of its light. Then it declines from the sun, and enters in 8 days into the 6th gate, and returns in 7 days to the 3rd gate, from which the sun goes forth. When the sun proceeds to the 4th gate, the moon goes forth for 7 days until it passes from the 5th gate. Again it returns in 7 days to the 4th gate, and completing all its light, declines, and passes on by the 1st gate in 8 days, and returns in 7 days to the 4th gate, from which the sun goes forth. Thus I beheld their stations, as according to the fixed order of the months, the sun rises and sets. At those times there is an excess of 30 days belonging to the sun in 5 years. All the days belonging to each year of the 5 years, when completed, amount to 364 days. And to the sun and stars belong 6 days. 6 days in each of the 5 years. Thus 30 days belonging to them. So that the moon has 30 days less than the sun and stars. The moon brings on all the years exactly, that their stations may come neither too forwards nor too backwards a single day, but that the years may be changed with correct precision in 364 days. In 3 years the days are 1,092. In 5 years they are 1,820, and in 8 years 2,912 days. To the moon alone belong in 3 years 1,062 days. In 5 years it has 50 days less than the sun. For an addition being made to the 1,062 days, in 5 years there are 1,770 days. And the days of the moon in 8 years are 2,832 days. For its days in 8 years are less than those of the sun by 80 days, which 80 days are its diminution in 8 years. The year then becomes truly complete, according to the station of the moon and the station of the sun, which rise in the different gates, which rise and set in them for 30 days. Enoch chapter 74. These are the leaders of the chiefs of the thousands, those which preside over all creation and over all the stars, with the 4 days which are added and never separated from the place allotted them, according to the complete calculation of the year. And these serve 4 days, which are not calculated in the calculation of the year. Respecting them, men greatly err. For these luminaries truly serve in the dwelling place of the world, 1 day in the 1st gate, 1 in the 3rd gate, 1 in the 4th gate, and 1 in the 6th gate. And the harmony of the world becomes complete every 364th state of it. For the signs, the seasons, the years, and the days Uriel showed me, the angel whom the Lord of glory appointed over all the luminaries of heaven in heaven and in the world, that they might rule in the face of the sky, and appearing over the earth, become conductors of the days and nights, the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the ministers of heaven, which make their circuit with all the chariots of heaven. Thus Uriel showed me 12 gates open for the circuit of the chariots of the sun in heaven, from which the rays of the sun shoot forth. From these proceed heat over the earth when they are opened in their stated seasons. They are for the winds and the spirit of the dew, when in their seasons they are opened in heaven at its extremities. 12 gates I beheld in heaven at the extremities of the earth, through which the sun, moon, and stars, and all the works of heaven, proceed at their rising and setting. Many windows also are open on the right and on the left. One window at a certain season grows extremely hot. So also are there gates from which the stars go forth, as they are commanded, and in which they set according to their number. I saw likewise the chariots of heaven, running in the world above, to those gates in which the stars turn, which never set. One of these is greater than all, which goes round the whole world. Enoch chapter 75. And at the extremities of the earth I beheld 12 gates open for all the winds, from which they proceed and blow over the earth. 3 of them are open in the front of heaven, 3 in the west, 3 on the right side of heaven, and 3 on the left. The first 3 are those which are towards the east, 3 are towards the north, 3 behind those which are upon the left, towards the south, and 3 on the west. From 4 of them proceed winds of blessing and of health, and from 8 proceed winds of punishment, when they are sent to destroy the earth and the heaven above it, all its inhabitants, and all which are in the waters, or on dry land. The first of these winds proceeds from the gate termed the eastern, through the first gate on the east, which inclines southwards. From this goes forth destruction, drought, heat, and perdition. From the second gate, the middle one, proceeds equity. There issue from it rain, fruitfulness, health, and dew. And from the third gate northwards proceed cold and drought. After these proceed the south winds through 3 principal gates. Through their first gate, which inclines eastwards, proceeds a hot wind. But from the middle gate proceed grateful odor, dew, rain, health, and life. From the third gate, which is westwards, proceed dew, rain, blight, and destruction. After these are the winds to the north, which is called the sea. They proceed from 3 gates. The first gate is that which is on the east, inclining southwards. From this proceed dew, rain, blight, and destruction. From the middle direct gate proceed rain, dew, life, and health. And from the third gate, which is westwards, inclining towards the south, proceed mist, frost, snow, rain, dew, and blight. After these, in the fourth quarter, are the winds to the west. From the first gate, inclining northwards, proceed dew, rain, frost, cold, snow, and chill. From the middle gate proceed rain, health, and blessing. And from the last gate, which is southwards, proceed drought, destruction, scorching, and perdition. The account of the 12 gates of the 4 quarters of heaven is ended. All their laws, all their infliction of punishment, and the health produced by them, have I explained to you, my son, Methuselah. Enoch Chapter 76. The first wind is called eastern because it is the first. The second is called the south, because the Most High there descends, and frequently there descends He who is blessed forever. The western wind has the name of diminution, because there all the luminaries of heaven are diminished and descend. The fourth wind, which is named the north, is divided into 3 parts, one of which is for the habitation of man, another for seas of water, with valleys, woods, rivers, shady places, and snow, and the third part contains paradise. 7 high mountains I beheld, higher than all the mountains of the earth, from which frost proceeds, while days, seasons, and years depart and pass away. 7 rivers I beheld upon the earth, greater than all rivers, one of which takes its course from the west. Into a great sea its water flows. 2 come from the north to the sea, their waters flowing into the Erythraean Sea on the east. And with respect to the remaining 4, they take their course in the cavity of the north. 2 to their sea, the Erythraean Sea, and 2 are poured into a great sea, where also it is said there is a desert. 7 great islands I saw in the sea, and on the earth, 7 in the great sea. Enoch Chapter 77. The names of the sun are these: one Ariaris, the other Tumas. The moon has 4 names. The first is Asanya, the second Ebla, the third Benes, and the fourth Ire. These are the 2 great luminaries, whose orbs are as the orbs of heaven, and the dimensions of both are equal. In the orb of the sun there are 7 parts of light, which are added to it more than to the moon. By measure it is put in, until the 7th portion of the light of the sun is departed. They set, enter into the western gate, circuit by the north, and through the eastern gate go forth over the face of heaven. When the moon rises, it appears in heaven, and the half of a 7th portion of light is all which is in it. In 14 days, the whole of its light is completed. By 3 quintuples, light is put into it, until in 15 days its light is completed. According to the signs of the year, it has 3 quintuples. The moon has the half of a 7th portion. During its diminution on the first day, its light decreases a 14th part. On the second day, it decreases a 13th part. On the third day, a 12th part. On the 4th day, an 11th part. On the 5th day, a 10th part. On the 6th day, a 9th part. On the 7th day, it decreases an 8th part. On the 8th day, it decreases a 7th part. On the 9th day, it decreases a 6th part. On the 10th day, it decreases a 5th part. On the 11th day, it decreases a 4th part. On the 12th day, it decreases a 3rd part. On the 13th day, it decreases a 2nd part. On the 14th day, it decreases a half of its 7th part. And on the 15th day, the whole remainder of its light is consumed. On stated months, the moon has 29 days. It also has a period of 28 days. Uriel likewise showed me another regulation. When light is poured into the moon, how it is poured into it from the sun. All the time that the moon is in progress with its light, it is poured into it in the presence of the sun, until its light is in 14 days completed in heaven. And when it is wholly extinguished, its light is consumed in heaven. And on the first day it is called the new moon, for on that day light is received into it. It becomes precisely completed on the day that the sun descends into the west, while the moon ascends at night from the east. The moon then shines all the night, until the sun rises before it, when the moon disappears in turn before the sun. Where light comes to the moon, there again it decreases, until all its light is extinguished, and the days of the moon pass away. Then its orb remains solitary without light. During 3 months it affects in 30 days each month its period, and during 3 more months it affects it in 29 days each. These are the times in which it effects its decrease in its first period, and in the first gate, namely in 177 days. And at the time of its going forth, during 3 months, it appears 30 days each, and during 3 more months it appears 29 days each. In the night it appears for each 20 days as the face of a man, and in the day as heaven, for it is nothing else except its light. Enoch chapter 78. And now, my son Methuselah, I have shown you everything, and the account of every ordinance of the stars of heaven is finished. He showed me every ordinance respecting these, which takes place at all times and in all seasons, under every influence, in all years, at the arrival and under the rule of each, during every month and every week. He showed me also the decrease of the moon, which is effected in the 6th gate, for in that 6th gate is its light consumed. From this is the beginning of the month, and its decrease is effected in the 6th gate in its period, until 177 days are completed, according to the mode of calculation by weeks, 25 weeks, and 2 days. Its period is less than that of the sun, according to the ordinance of the stars, by 5 days and 1/2 year precisely, when that their visible situation is completed. Such is the appearance and likeness of every luminary which Uriel, the great angel who conducts them, showed to me.